I know in Columbus County, which is where I am, we have a lot of migrant and Hispanic children. And I never got complete clarification on this, but there was a time where they were not allowing us to place an English, an ESL student unless they had been in school in the United States for 4 years. Wow. Because they were, because you're at that point identifying a child with a disability. I mean, if a child has an IEP for speech or for language, it is considered special education, just like if they're placed for learning disability or other health impairment, then it is special education. So you're saying that this child needs special education when they're very bright, and they're doing well, and so you do have to, there are different assessments. More than likely it would be a lot more gathering data to determine if that child, and that's another thing that I really struggle with is parents come in and say, but he can't say the sound. And what we're really saying at the level of school speech therapy is he probably would benefit from speech. However, speech therapy is not required for him to fully participate in the classroom setting. And so that's what school speech therapy is there for.
So you can't help students who are like struggling with a particular sound if they're not qualified for special needs? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
So there are so for articulation, for example, it says that a student must exhibit 2 or more sounds in error that should have been acquired by his or her current age. Okay. So if a child has an R or a TH issue, and they're 5, even if it's an R and a TH, that's 2 sounds in error, but they're not sounds that they should have acquired by that age. Again, we are, thank goodness, really allowed to use our judgment. Lisp, that's something that, in my opinion, when they're 5 and they lisp, they're probably going to lisp when they're 8 or 9. Like, it's not something that's just going to go away on its own. So I always use my judgment on if a child simply lisps on an S. So they say, I sit down, I want to stay here, then I might wait a little while before I come in and test. However, I've seen students who actually have the tongue come out for S, T, N, D, S, H, C, H, every single sound. They have that, their tongue's just flying. And does that impact them academically? Absolutely. You don't even know what they're saying because you're so focused on their tongue flying out of their mouth. So if that child is 5, I'm going to pick them up. Yeah. Because it's not going to be any easier to work on when they're 7. But a child who has, maybe he's missing their front teeth, what I call passy mouth, the child who did suck their thumb or had a bottle for a long time or had a passy for a long time, can get that kind of open bite that if they're not doing those things when they get their grown-up teeth in, it really will kind of remediate on its own. So we are allowed to use our judgment. For language placement, there was a very strict, you had to have 2 standard scores of 79 or below to place. But they changed that when they revised the procedures, I think back in 2008 or 2009. And it basically just says if there is evidence of a language disorder. And it really leaves it open to broad interpretation.
Okay. So one of the other questions that I had, what made you want to go into this field?
I was at Chapel Hill, which is a very large liberal arts university. I really didn't know that more specific fields like this were available to me. I mean, everybody I knew was an econ major or a poli-sci major or maybe going to be a nurse or a teacher, these very kind of large fields. And my roommate's mom was a speech therapist for what used to be the DEC, and it's now the CDSA, which is like a birth to 3 state-funded assessment, multidisciplinary assessment, place to take kids that are young and the parents are concerned about. So I was like, well, I wonder what she had to do. Yeah. And so I went and observed her working with some students or some little bitties, testing them, and I thought that it looked like something I might like to do, and so I found out what I needed to do. And, there really is no such thing as an undergraduate degree. You have to have a master's degree to be licensed. But most undergraduate universities offer a track so that when I graduated, I had the prerequisites to apply to graduate school.
Okay.
So it was just kind of one of those, like, I don't really know what I want to be. I'll go check this out. But I did. And then by the time, I did 2 years towards it with anatomy of the head and neck and, a basic speech disorders, communication disorders class, I knew that it was something I wanted to continue with.
That's awesome. All right, well, I think that's all that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yay! Oh, I'm not sure what's in the